All right, good morning, everybody. Today is April 25th, 2024. We're calling this Board of Directors meeting for Green Valley Special Utility District to order. We're agenda item A, establish a quorum, call to order. B, invocation and pledge of allegiance. Please stand. Dear Heavenly Father, we gather today to do your bidding, to help the community in every way that we can. Please give us the wisdom, the knowledge, and the words by our actions to guide this company into a great future. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, agenda item C, public comments. Do we have any public comments? No? Thank you. Okay, moving to agenda item D, consent agenda. All items listed below are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the board and will be approved by one motion. There will be no discussion of these items unless a board member so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered and action taken as necessary. As part of the order of business, 1 through 5. Do you have any comments on any of them? Does anybody want to remove any? Nick, are you sure?
No, I
You
don't
want
want
3
to
for 3,
remove
buddy?
any. I'll make a motion that we approve consent agenda items D1 through 5 and tell staff, keep going on, keeping an eye on the money. It's looking better.
We're 3 for 3 here. Okay, so I have a
I'll second.
motion. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved. Agenda item E, hear updates on the following items from GVHD general manager, staff, and committee chairs and take action as necessary. E1, business and operations, interim general manager, memo and updates.
Good morning. That's loud. There have been no changes in staffing levels since the memo was printed on the 18th. If there's let's see the updates on the sale of the truck. I was actually just given notice that the person that purchased it is going to be picking it up today. And we are giving the agenda item G, we're doing the engineering presentation or discussion on that. And then also that on the GVSET headquarters warranty repair and claims that general contractor Trimala has been on site for the past week and a half addressing our concerns. Testing.
Can you say all that again? No, I was just playing. You're good. All right, so appreciate the update on the vehicle and the building.
I
Was
have
it,
one question on
Go
the surplus truck. Do we remove logos or do we just send it on the way? I have no idea how to handle that.
And I think Pam just left, but yeah, we should be removing our stuff. I believe they're just vinyls.
awesome. And now that we got this experience done, all the other vehicles that we surplused so far, we're going to be working on doing the same process, correct?
Yeah, so this was our first time to use govdeals.com. I've used them previously at a different job, and I had heard from board members that they had had good experiences with them as well. And so far, it's been pretty good. The govdeals.com does a good job of also kind of holding our hands as the seller and walking us through the process. And I think we're going to be using them many times in the future.
Awesome, thank you. Anybody else have any questions, concerns for Philip? No? Okay, thank you. Moving to E2, operations report and updates, Pam. And she ran out. Okay, we're gonna come back to that one. At this time, we'll go to E3, CRWA Board of Trustees post-meeting updates, Mr. Cooper and Mr. Sherman.
You want to go first, Steve? So we, Mr. Foose, the chair reported that the CRWA building was broken into. The office building was broken into. The only thing really of value, they took a few mics oddly, and they stole a fairly nice drone that CRWA uses. So they're tightening up some security measures and filing an insurance claim on that. We updated our water mitigation, our conservation, our water conservation plan, which is just something we need to do annually. There was discussion on the wheeling agreement for some Hayes Caldwell folks. That doesn't really affect Green Valley much. The policy committee gave us a rundown of some proposed changes to the policy, which are significant. That was quite a agenda item. We got a report on the Wells Ranch 3, I guess we're calling it phase 2, the ultimate project, and we are much closer to the total number of water rights that we need to press forward with that overall project. That's the first step in what, about a dozen steps, Steve, that we need to go through to actually get that next phase of water. Other than that, we hired Langley and Banac as our new general counsel. Our previous counsel is just retiring. He's no longer going to be working. We got an update on the Tri-Hydro lawsuit. That is moving forward. And a Hayes Caldwell mediation is scheduled for May 17th. Steve had mentioned that last month, and that's just the date that it was scheduled. So we hired we hired STV as a new engineering firm. There were 5 submissions for that engineering request for qualification, and STV was the highest scoring, and they were unanimously approved. And we got a new member to the ARWA appointment. Carrie Averett, the new general manager, is going to be taking the place of Mr. Humberto Ramos. I think that's enough. Anything I missed, Steve?
I just want to add a couple of things. First of all, the direction from staff was that stage 3 water restrictions are going to happen any day. Canyon Lake is currently, and this was on the 15th, at 86.91 feet and falling. Without any massive rainfall, it's going to, summer's going to be very challenging. Stage 5 is a new level that was introduced recently. It was not a level in all the time of grading water usage. Stage 5 requirement is a required reduction in water usage of 30%. Now, at this point in time, there is no penalties for that. I specifically asked what the standards were to be able to gauge and grade the 30% reduction. Nobody really knows because it's never been hit before. So if we keep going in this route, if Canyon Lake continues to fall, stage 5 will be right around the corner on the water that we pull from Canyon Lake and GBRA. So that was all I had.
If I may, Mr. President, that's why I'm so concerned about feeling the urgency to bring that final stage of ARWA's service to us, because at least we would have that to fall back on to some extent. But I still don't know how fast they're going to get here.
All right, well, maybe Mr. Sherman can shed some light on that. We'll go to E5, ARWA Board of Directors post-meeting updates. Mr. Sherman.
Let me hit E4 first. There's
sorry.
One item that was one item of note at the Board of Managers meeting that we didn't really cover in the trustees meeting is down the road in the 2030 decade, there is another potential major project that would bring water up from the coast, and they're gauging interested parties. Mr. Schwinn, the interim general manager, had just told them, hey, CRWA as a whole might be interested in 20,000 acre feet plus of water. So that's a project that is going to be starting to move forward. It's a new source for the region, so we got it added to the Region L planning so that funding might be available. But that's something down the road in the future that we're discussing at a very high level in the Board of Managers meeting.
All right, so that was E4.
And then on the ARWA report, we had our meeting yesterday. The biggest items were the water treatment plant. It has been delayed substantial completion. It appears it's contractor error. The biggest issue that's come up is when they were installing their electrical duct banks, which are recessed into the ground, they didn't protect the ends of them. And then it rained and mud and debris got into all of them. And so the electrician is having to pull a mandrel through thousands and thousands and thousands of feet of small diameter conduit with bends, and it's taking a while. The last date of substantial completion was listed as July 1st. It's been updated to July 5th. So we'll see how that goes. ARWA and CRWA staff had met. There's an issue with the delivery point at Lake Dunlap. They're coming together with meetings to figure out a routing and how to address that. So they've been having meetings on that. The water treatment plant out there, and I still need to learn a little bit more about the names and the phasing and what we call phase 1 and 2 and what they call 1A, B, and C, A, B, C, and D. 1C and 1D phase of the treatment plant have been requested to be moved up in time. 1C was stated to be contemplated, at a high level 2027 timeframe. 1D was contemplated at a high level to be 2034. GBRA has additional water rights that they have no treatment for. So they've approached ARWA, hey, can we bring our water into your plant? We'll participate in the expansion. And ultimately, we would save some money. ARWA participating members would save some money with another partner. But it's moving forward in time, the upgrade. Green Valley's potential cost for C and D is 14.6 million. We got an item delayed, an interlocal agreement item delayed from yesterday's meeting to next month so that we could brief the board and Philip and I can figure out how much we can actually participate and, loop the board in. So those are the high level of ARWA. It was about an hour and a half meeting. We had a pretty good executive session on land acquisition. So most of the discussion was really an executive session, but can't tell you all about it.
Real quick, your C and D 14.6 million, about when timeframe? This year, next year?
They would like to have at the May ARWA meeting an understanding of all the participants of commitment to the project.
Mhm.
I know City of Buda, the City of Kyle, they are desperately in need of water. It's a lot of money, but I would say if we didn't take our portion, someone else would happily grab it. So I was madly texting Philip, in the meeting every time something of note came up and then we had a good call on it yesterday evening, but we need to consider it and figure out how to do it. They want to have commitments by next month. And they want to have a bid out in December of 24. So GBRA needs it very quickly, and that's what's pushing the urgency for the rest of them, which is not my favorite circumstance to be in, but that's the case. So we need to consider it.
How many acre feet would we, ballpark?
I don't have an
what would
answer to that
investment-
question. That's that was my discussion with Philip yesterday evening was I need to understand on our water inventory, what we're calling phase 1 and phase 2. And I was gonna kind of ask some questions to Gary on that today and how that compares with ARWA's treatment plant phasing that they're calling phase 1A through D. And then there's also a phase 2 ultimately. So I don't have a good answer for you, but I'm on it.
No, I appreciate your work behind it. I just want to know more or less, my concern would be for that much money, the valuation of the water that we would be getting. Anyways, we'll worry about that next month when you give us an update. Thanks. All right, going back to E2, updates on operations report. Pam.
Good morning. Do y'all have any questions on the actual operations report itself?
No, I personally don't. Does anybody have any questions for Pam on the operations report?
Question while Pam was gone about the disposition of.
Oh, yes,
Oh, yeah.
on the logos and whatnot, are we removing all of that before
Yes,
it goes?
before
on?
they leave our property, there is no logos. And as a matter of fact, they're picking up the truck today. Wasn't aware if they were coming in today, but I've got the guys, will have everything off the truck, lettering, logos and everything off the truck before it pulls out, along with the exempt license plates. As far as the other vehicles that we're having for sale, we could probably pretty much take the logos off of them. I don't generally like to in case we have an emergency and they have to move those vehicles for some reason or do something with them. We usually wait till right before we sell them to take off the logos. But we will not let the vehicle leave the premises with the logos on there.
Thank you. All right, going to E6, Board Directors Committee meetings updates. 6I, Investment Committee, Mr. King.
Yeah, there's a memo in the packet. We met on the 14th of April to go over the investment report, and we continue to focus highly on trying to maximize our interest income. We do have a CD that's maturing May the 1st, $1.8 million. We're looking at options for that. And on a side note, Heidi and I went over to NBU yesterday and met with their finance team, kind of shared how they handle their investments, really a gamut of things. I was overwhelmed. I'm sure Heidi was too, but it was a good meeting. That's all I have.
Thank you. 6II, Construction Committee, Mr. Sherman.
Yes, on the 18th, the construction committee met a second time to discuss the engineering RFQs. We have an agenda item under G that has all the detail of that evaluation. We had, what did we have, 20 RFQs? It was more than we expected. But we got through it, and we've got our recommendation under item G.
Awesome, thank you. All right, going to item F, review and consider proposal for legislative lobbyist services and take action as necessary.
Right.
Yep. Yep, go ahead.
About that, David. I have some questions on that. How many proposals did we get?
We received one.
Where was it published?
Philip, can
So
you?
we had it posted on our website. I contacted the TRWA as well as our general counsel on just where one typically finds a lobbyist. The word that I received from especially from TRWA was that most of the time it's through word of mouth. And so I'm not aware of how Mr. Bentley was made aware of our RFQ, but he was the only submittal. I talked to him yesterday. He was not planning on being here based on a suggestion from myself to kind of see what the board was going to discuss on the lobbyist services and see where the board lies on what they're looking for. This was in response to the RFQ, which was the board asked for, I want to say, in the December board meeting.
Yeah, because I'd asked for it, and it's, I think,
Yeah. And then we put it back on there just to see who would apply, what their
Well,
rates
I'm-
are,
I'm
kind of the knowledge
very-
aspect of it.
I'm very concerned that one submittal, and in fact, I spoke with the previous firm, they didn't see it anywhere. And they have applications that actively poll and look for that stuff. So I would not be comfortable with what looks like a generic. I mean, they're not specializing in water. I have a real concern with that.
I don't think
And
they did the SJW Group, DBA Texas Water Company. Isn't Texas Water Company the Canyon Lake region?
Yes.
So they have some experience in that area. So it's not to say that they don't have any experience or they don't specifically just focus just on water.
yeah, 'cause
I
they
don't know.
seemed extremely broad.
I mean, but to the point of the other experiences that they have at the legislative levels, again, this is for information, like you were asking, just to see who else and their rates. And I know kind of more or less everybody's position as to what we need for
Mhm.
concerns of SWIFT funding at the $1 billion and the rates that they give for projects. So at this point, I mean, if we don't want to take any action on this right now, then we don't
because
need to,
I'm-
but if,
In speaking to our previous lobbyist, he's willing to beat this price.
okay, well, our previous lobbyists were let go for reasons that the board felt, even at the price reduction that they proposed, still wasn't at the level of confidence that we felt that we continue with
You know,
them.
if I might share a little information that I found out too. uh, It wasn't all entirely their fault. They were told by previous management to back off, to not pursue this.
Okay,
That it was a political consideration of past management that said, oh, no, back off, don't. Because they didn't want to piss off the state senator that was pushing this stuff. I have real concerns about we're throwing out the baby with the bathwater.
okay, well, appreciate your, position on that. Again, this was
Mhm.
mainly for you.
I
If
appreciate that.
anybody.
Well, because right,
so-
it was expressed to me too, right now, we don't know what's going on in Austin.
Well,
Not in any
I
detail.
wouldn't say so much. Shan is thoroughly aware of the big stuff that's going on that would
Sure.
pending threatened litigation against us or possible challenges, and that's our general counsel's, position as to advise us as to what's
Yeah.
coming. Lobbying wise, there's two different versions. The lobbying that's advocating for our wants and needs, and then there's other lobbying services that look for the money aspect to try to get us the grants, to try to get us
Right.
the
And we need-
funding
and
for
we need both.
infrastructure. Well, and again, that's why if we put it out there, one applied, it's for us to consider or not consider at this time. If we need to get more candidates, we can continue it on, if that's how the board feels.
Well,
But
Let me make
Go
a
ahead.
suggestion. If, because I know you'd ask for the agenda item to open this RFQ up.
Yeah,
I tend to agree with you. I don't like only seeing one of anything.
yeah.
If,
I would be happy with, say, 3.
Sure.
At least we'd have something
why
to
don't,
compare against.
why don't I make the suggestion that we take no action today, and then you work with staff on coordinating and finding additional ones. You know, there's a couple suggestions I have. Maybe we see who ARWA uses, CRC or CRWA uses. You
Well,
know,
because,
I would have hoped for a little bit more input from TRWA, but,
yeah, I'm disappointed in them.
so.
Dan, do you know of any firms that we should maybe be proactive and ask them to participate?
I do know of a couple of firms, and I have some thoughts, but I'd rather just share that with y'all in writing.
Yeah, I'd like to hear them.
Okay.
so
That-
let me ask you
That sounds
this.
like a good path.
Yeah,
Well-
my suggestion would be for today,
Yeah, let's- we can
take no
table this
action
one.
and then
Right.
continue working on this. And
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
One
you.
question.
I'm good with that.
One question I have though is, so we get the resumes or the bios of these firms that would be presenting their, I guess, studies. Do we feel that we need to interview them to go into the knowledge of, or should everything be covered just on paper?
A client list speaks a lot to me, for instance, and how
Okay.
long they've been in the business. If there's, I'm concerned too, this firm lists 2 principals. How many do they have other people? Don't know.
Well, again,
There's
that's
a
what
lot
I'm
of
saying
questions,
is
yeah.
on paper, you only get so much information.
Right.
In person, do we feel like we need to interview, the other proposals that we get for consideration? I don't know if it's been done in the past, but I
Yeah.
would be willing to spend the time to learn so that we can make an informed decision if we do go forward with lobbying services.
Yeah.
So
Any other board members have any thoughts on that? I mean, I'm just
Do you feel like
expressing
we
a
should
concern that
interview
only one item.
and have that, okay, other than just paper.
I'd
Correct.
say, Bob, why don't you work with staff and kind of lead the charge on this, and we'll bring it back. I don't want to say in a certain time. You don't want to table it to a date certain, but
No, no,
just take no action until
yeah,
it comes back on our agenda.
And then when we're ready, then we'll put it back on the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay,
sounds
So-
great. Thanks, everyone.
To say out loud that there are some alternatives as well. Getting in other trade groups, not just TRWA, that have a very active presence and you get sometimes because you're part of a pool of resources. This district, I would say generally has specific needs that don't always align with TRWA. RWA's membership, is by and large, hundreds of very, very small rural water supply corporations. So we're at a little different stage. We're kind of in between. I think entities like Texas Water Conservation Association, active capital, and active participation by one or more board members in that process could prove to be, a good economic alternative.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, Bob, if you can do some more homework with that, and Philip, and then when you guys are ready, if you want to present it to the board, for that month, whenever it is.
Yeah.
So
Gladly.
there's
Thank
no timeline
everybody
on it.
for
I don't think
being
there's
here
a
today.
hot need that we have to have it next month or anything like
No.
that. So,
And I would say that based on the Lieutenant Governor issued his agenda in this past week, and water issues aren't as prominent as they have been in the past. That doesn't mean that something big might not happen. This session looks to be focusing on some other things.
okay.
Well, I know my concern too. I don't know if the rest of the board here is seeing, I'm seeing a whole lot more articles being published across the state that people are beginning to wake up that there's getting to be concern for water supplies. I mean, they're across the board. There's entities like you mentioned, Buddha and Kyle and all, and I know San Marcos is in a hurt status too. We need to be front and center.
Oh, we
Anyway.
need to be present.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank
So on item F, we're going to take no action on that one until we're ready in the future. All right, going to item G, considers statements of qualification from engineering services and take action as necessary. Philip.
All right, this is, we had posted an RFQ, received, as mentioned earlier, I believe 20 applicants for the statement of qualifications. I had sent out the RFQ. It was posted to our website as well. I had sent it out to a contact list that I had made from talking with our neighboring entities on engineering firms that they used. I talked to the Two River authorities and just did a blanket mail out to them. We met, had two staff members, myself and Gabe Cantu, met with the construction committee to basically, we had ranked the statements individually, came together, tabulated them, and then were discussion of how many different firms we were going to entertain, as well as how to handle it. The ultimate decision we came to was we were going to add 5 firms to our existing engineering firms and rotate projects based on availability and expertise and just a couple other factors. But the plan was to add STV, Friesen Nichols, Garver, BGE, and Westwood to our firm of engineering consultants.
Philip, real quick, can you refresh my memory on why we went to RFQ for an engineering firm?
The board asked that I want to say in the January meeting. And I don't remember the exact discussion on the why.
President, do you have any insight?
Yeah, so on, in the January meeting, based on the amount of workload that we have going on, we wanted to assess to see if there was any other professionals in the industry that would be interested in working with us and partnering with us. I know Gary has done a great job. Tri-Hydro has been, longstanding partners with our company. But with the amount of work to come based on the CIP plans that we were tracking at the time and everything else coming, we wanted to make sure market-wise, we are in a good, healthy position with diverse experts in the field that we can rely on if certain things wanted to be moved to certain specialties. But that's why we wanted the construction committee to at least review, assess, and then bring back their recommendations if we needed it, or if we're not, or if who. So at that time, it was more knowledge-based to get some information. Nick, would you like to elaborate some more on y'all's process on how y'all came up to this?
So it's typical, Steve, for an engineering service to get an RFQ. You don't it's not like a bid where you can say, hey, Steve, how much will you charge us for this? Bob, how much? Can't do that in the engineering world. You have to determine who is qualified, and then later you work out, you see the actual rates. It's kind of frustrating from a budgeting standpoint, but that's how it works. I spoke to several other entities, contacts I have, people I've worked with around the state. A lot of folks, most everyone has a rotation of different firms, and you can see how we work with staff, see what turnaround time is. Sometimes you get better, project completion if you have, if a couple folks are, booked up and busy, you can go down to the next person that has more availability. That's the type of thing that I was, seeing with other entities, cities, water companies, that sort of thing around the state that I know folks that I contacted and asked about it. We had great interest. Maybe we just had more because that's what the river authorities do. That's what the cities do. They have a listing of, a variety of different firms, and then, one firm's working on one project, maybe two, and the next one is on the next couple. That we had extended discussion about all this. Gabe knew a lot of the, from his previous experience, he had a lot of good insight with some of the proposed staff that were listed in all these 20 RFQs. It was extensive. They listed their project team, specific to us. I was fortunate that we had also just done this at CRWA. I was on the committee that reviewed the RFQs for engineering services. Some of the folks that had put in for different, both entities, they weren't just copy and paste it. These were different proposed staff for the different entities because they can't propose the same project manager for every, client. They kind of specialize to our needs. So it took longer than I expected because there were so many, but we had a couple really good meetings on it. And I know Sherry was, slave driving James and I to get our finalized scoring in. Can I say that? Yeah, she was nice about it, but I got a lot of calls making sure we were on track. So I appreciate her effort on this. But does that answer the question? I don't know if I just said a lot of words.
Yeah,
but not
again, I was
answer.
looking for a refresher. I remember that we chose to do this. My concern was that we're not looking for engineering firms to fix a problem that we've got. We're just looking to increase our pool of engineers that we use.
Correct,
That's exactly
correct.
it.
So,
That was it. That was my concern.
so I actually discussed that with Philip because I actually discussed that with Philip because we did receive proposals from both of our existing consultants. And I was a little surprised by that because it wasn't a, get rid of somebody. It was, we've got so much work, we're looking for additional firms. A lot of the submittals, these firms had done work in a supporting role to our existing consultants. I didn't realize that we had so much work that the existing firms were having to go, I assume, I don't know why, but they were having to go get supporting sub-consultants to keep up with the pace of Green Valley right now. So seeing that, it kind of reinforced in my mind that this is the correct decision to go out for some additional consultants.
Mr. President, if I may, too, a couple of the firms, I do have some slight concerns that perhaps the committee has already seen them, but specifically was brought to my attention that BG&E and Westwood, the engineering firm is just one side of their business, is the best way I can determine it. That it seems like they are involved with development in our district. Some of the work, and perhaps they care to speak to it, involves setting up and supporting MUDs. And perhaps the answer to that is to exclude them or have them recuse themselves from certain projects. I don't know, but it's worthy of discussion.
So a lot of the development, I don't know about MUDs specifically. I didn't see any reference to MUDs in their proposals, or at least I don't remember them. Some of the consultants did have experience locally with development. Um, that would be something that staff would have flexibility to say, hey, if something is going to be a conflict, we certainly wouldn't give a certain
Scope of work.
scope of work
Yeah.
project
Right.
towards a certain firm. Um,
But to be more specific, one of them is involved with Guadalupe Bend, and the other one is involved with one I'm more familiar with, Caden Springs.
So my thought behind that,
Sure.
going to Nick's point, is if in all issues, if they are with a partner developer, building a neighborhood or a community of some kind or a MUD, they inform our staff members saying, we are partaking into this effort.
Yeah.
We cannot have anything to do with a project that's tied to it from our standpoint.
Right.
They would recuse themselves from that part of the work to make sure everything's nice and on the cleaning up. So.
I'm good with that. I just wanted to shine a little sunlight
Yeah.
on
No, I-
those two that were brought to my attention.
some of those development type, previous work, it
Mhm.
was absolutely included in the packets. The packets were significant. This was
Yeah.
no, just slap it together
Right.
submittal that we received times 20. It's a good concern. I know staff is hearing you, so as we move forward, that is something that's, as we engage with them, staff would make sure that we are not inadvertently getting into a conflict. And then the engineers themselves, they take their PEs pretty seriously. And if there's an ethics, concern,
Right.
they could, their license could be at risk. So
Right.
falls
they,
into-
I have no doubt that they would also identify and be very transparent about any conflicts they have, but there's so much work around here that we're gonna, our existing firms work for other entities, they have
Sure.
other clients, and they manage to navigate that concern successfully. So it's a great point, but I don't have any concern that between the engineers themselves and our staff, especially when you've raised the question, will have
Yeah.
any problem.
I'm good with that. I
navigating
just, like I said, I wanted to shine a little sunlight. It was brought to my attention. It's like, okay, let's be sure, like you said, staff is aware of it and they're aware of the caveats of the do's and don'ts. And so the board is also aware.
And we've got the RFQs.
Can always look
Yeah,
at 'em.
this is
Yeah.
as fantastic reading as it is. I actually enjoy reading that kind of stuff.
Well, I've always heard that about you.
But we've got all those available. I've got them digitally if you want them, and we've got hard copies as well.
Okay.
So you can look at some of the background as well, but
Sure.
the five of us had multiple meetings on it. I know, like I said, Gabe had some really good insight on a lot of some of the proposed staff. I know of some of the proposed staff. I know
Sure.
of these firms working at CRWA on the RFQ process.
Right.
I'd seen a bunch of them as well, heard what that committee had to say about,
Yeah.
some of the firms and the
insight.
staff. So, excellent point. I'm glad we're having the discussion, but I'm very confident in
Okay.
recommending these. And these were the highest scoring of our aggregate.
And just for clarification, by, these five right here, adding to our pool of engineers, this does not terminate the service agreement.
Yeah, no, that's,
Gary or Tri-Hydro.
and like I was saying earlier, I kind of asked Philip, why did we get submittals from the two?
Mhm.
And Philip said that was kind of my suggestion because I sent it to them. I made them aware
Okay.
of it. So,
Cool.
it
Well,
was
appreciate
not
your all's
a-
involvement still.
yeah,
on
it
that.
was not, we appreciate you putting it together, but it was not this is not a replacement. This is
Right.
a supplement.
This is just an adding to the workforce so that we can be more effective in every way. All right. So with that, do we have a motion?
I will make the motion. Let me make sure I state it correctly. Okay. So I make a motion that Green Valley engages the following list of supplemental engineers: STV, Friesen Nichols, Garver, BGE, and Westwood Engineering.
A second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, ayes have it. Thank you. Moving to item H, review bid tabulations and hear utility engineering group's engineers recommendation and award contract including authorizing the interim general manager to sign all necessary documents for the following construction of the CID 02 plant number 11 pumps and electrical projects. Take action necessary. Gary.
Good morning. We have two agenda items. The first one is the pumps and electrical additions at Plant 11. This project was advertised on February 18th and February 25th. We opened bids on April 2nd, received 8 qualified bids. Everybody that turned in was qualified. They provided all the information that we needed. Little background on this project. It's been on the books for a while. It was financed with actually this building with the Water Development Board. I think it was in 2020, I believe. But we were told to not start design until the building was complete and everything was moving forward, and make sure that enough money was available for this project. Then we were authorized to move forward with design. So we put the design together, put it out to bid. We'd split it up. Talking to staff, it was our recommendation to split it up because tank contractors don't need to be installing pumps and pumps and electrical contractors don't need to be installing ground tanks. All that ends up doing is they add a markup on top of it, and you're paying somebody for management. So just wanted to explain that. That's why there's 2 projects, same site. We wanted to focus on the people that are actually doing the work and the general contractors that would actually be doing the work. We did receive TCEQ approval of the plans. We're still waiting on Water Development Board approval. So I ask if you make a motion just to make a contract award contingent upon Water Development Board approval. They've had it for a while, but they're backlogged. I talk to them every week about trying to get this. I know they were waiting on the TCEQ approval. That's one of the things that they need to put in their letter, that it has been approved by TCEQ. But just want you to be aware that we can't go straight to contract until we get that approval through Water Development Board.
How long are these bids good for? I'm sorry to interrupt.
60 days.
60 days. Do we expect the approval within that 60
I do.
days?
Yeah.
Okay.
Typically, we're seeing them within 3 to 4 weeks of getting the TCEQ approval. So I think we'll have plenty of time to get everything together. We had 8 bidders. The low bidder was MGC Contractors at $1,184,000. They're a reputable contractor. They're right in New Braunfels. They've done some work for the district, some small projects. This would be the biggest one that they've worked on to date for the district. But we have no reservations with them. We've worked with them on multiple other clients, and they've always done a good job. And I think staff has experience with them as well. So our recommendation is MGC Contractors for the pumps and electrical additions contract at $1,184,000.
What was your opinion of cost pre-bid?
I don't know that I put that
It's
on.
not, I didn't see it listed here. And then 2, while you find that, what budget item and where do we have money to pay for this, Philip?
This will be in our capital budget, and this was, I believe Gary mentioned it earlier, that this was part of was this the TWD bond or was this the
Yes.
open market?
No, it was Texas Water Development Board.
Okay, so this was part of the 2020 TWD bond.
And we have enough money left in that bond to cover all of this?
It should be.
No,
I will
there's-
check.
In that bond, in the loan, there's $2,345,061.93 left for this project. Any remainder would need to be on capital reserves. This is in the CIP plan. So that's the
So we're
source of funds.
funded through the bond. We don't have to, no more.
But there would
money
be a
in the-
portion
It
that the
looks,
bond can't cover that we would have to pick up
That's
out of
correct.
our.
That would come out of reserve.
It looks like
Reserve.
1.8 million.
Yes.
So we're still spending 1.8 million, even with the funding we already have.
With awarding both projects, yes. There's 2.345 million left in the loan.
Yeah. So if there's 2.345, this first one you're asking for is 1.184 million. And the one you're about to ask us for is 2.614 million.
Right.
Which makes a total of 3.8 million. We only have 2 million allocated. We have to come up with the other 1.8 out of our own money.
Right.
That's what we're looking at.
Yes.
Is there any easements on any of these projects, or it's all on our existing property?
It's on existing property. The district bought that property in 2013, so it's all fee simple purchase property, and you don't need any additional land. It's installing 2 pumps within the existing pump building and then electrical. This contract also includes the flow meters that are installed there. They're 11 years old now and in disrepair. So this project replaces those. So that was something that was not contemplated in the original loan package either, but it's something that needs to be done. But no easements and no property purchase is needed.
Thank you.
And Philip, you're comfortable with that remaining balance for us to pull out of our funds without it being a shock to our current budget?
I am, and this may open a whole nother can of worms, but it's, as we've talked about our water master plan, and it was approved at the last meeting.
Mhm.
As we're looking at our 1 to 5, even the 1 to 5 plan, there,
Yeah.
we'll eventually have to pay for some stuff. We're gonna have to cash flow some of these projects
Mhm.
if the board does not want to go out for additional debt.
Understood. Okay.
I would prefer to cash flow versus addition. Just a healthy discussion of
Yeah.
how do we pay for it, so.
Yeah, it's mindful. Okay, cool. So with that information,
James, do you have any other concerns overall?
No, but I just want the board to remember the 1.8 million when we go into executive session. Just remember how easy we're about to approve this. So
Do these need to be approved separately?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve I don't have the title. CID 02 Plant 11 Pumps and Electrical Project. Authorizing the general manager to sign all necessary documents for the construction.
MGC. Yes. Yes.
yeah, it says, award to the lowest cost, most responsive bidder, MGC contractors for the total combined project cost of 1.184 million. On folder I, the second paragraph.
I think he's looking at the agenda. And
He's looking at the
Oh,
agenda.
recommendation.
Yeah, it's not,
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
sorry.
it's not on there. You're correct. But it is,
I
on-
have to state it as the agenda item, Shan?
We need to identify the contractor who's,
Yep.
yeah, and so, it's MGC Contractors for 1.184 million. 1.184.
And I'd like to recall my initial motion, modify it. I'd like to award contract for the construction of CID 02 Plant 11 Pumps and Electrical to MGD for the
D.
cost of 1.184 million.
have a
Second.
motion. Have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope.
just remember that was unanimous.
Needs to be done. All right, moving on to agenda item I, review bid tabulations and hear utility engineering group's engineer's recommendation and award contract, including authorizing the interim general manager to sign all necessary documents for construction of the CID 03 Plant 11 ground storage tank project and taking the action as necessary.
Same site, just a different scope of work. This is the pre-stressed concrete ground storage tank. It's a 500,000 gallon tank to match the existing tank that's there. We've received two bidders on this, or two bids on this one, DN Tanks and Preload. Those are the only two that are working in this area in Texas, building this type of tank. The low bidder was DN Tanks, and that's our recommendation at $2,614,980. A couple of things. This one was about $225,000 over our estimate. One of the reasons for that is while we were about to advertise, there was a rain event and significant erosion occurred at the site. So we ended up adding, with staff recommendation, some armoring and concrete to address that erosion and prevent it from happening in the future. So that was a significant add. It's a lot of concrete and grading and compaction, and then also putting a gravel pack around the existing tank and the new tank so that erosion doesn't occur around those tanks and the foundations. But that's To me, that scope of work isn't worth $225,000, but that's one of the reasons that it was over. And the other is just inflation. We're seeing prices across the board. It's starting to level off a little bit, but it's still expensive to build these projects.
Price is good for 60 days.
Correct. And we opened these on April 2nd, so, we're burning days, but I think we'll be fine and we can always go back, to the contractors and discuss that, but, they're well aware that this is a Water Development Board project and there's,
Beyond it.
information all in the bids about we can't do anything until Water Development Board tells us we can do it. So, I don't foresee any issues.
So between these two projects, the pumps themselves
Mhm.
are more critical in my mind than additional ground storage. The additional ground storage, we've gone over previously our requirement for elevated storage, ground storage,
Right.
all of our requirements. Is this, to James's concern, is this something that could be deferred? And if we defer it, if we rebid it, it would likely be more expensive.
Right.
But is this something that could be deferred so that, to discuss if we spend our
Yep.
cash on hand,
Sure.
or is it necessary and why?
We discussed that at the staff level. I know Gabe and I have talked about this quite a bit. The main reason we want to do this now is you have a lot of developments in that corridor that are coming on. Grace Valley, Legendary Trails, Cibolo Farms, and Austin Track is getting their second plat approved. So, there's 2,500 homes that are coming to this service area. So having additional storage is not a bad thing in that area. And it takes 400 days to build this tank. So a lot of those homes are going to be, close to selling. Could we squeak by? Yes. It just doesn't give you much contingency on storage.
So that's the exact answer to the question. We could defer, squeak by. Now, I go back to Philip. Should we? You guide us. Should we do this, spend all of our bond money plus 1.8 million?
I will always advocate for more storage, just as, I don't know, if Gary just used the word contingency. Was it 2 summers ago when Canyon Regional went down for a day? And we very quickly realized that Green Valley as a whole is very reliant on Canyon Regional operating for our supply and pressures. And we, at the staff level as well as the board level, had discussed taking steps to be more independent from Canyon Regional, and this is one of those steps.
And also too, this was on our March water master plan on the CIP wise. These are rated and scored accordingly from staff's recommendation as to the necessary and where our hot issues are currently at. We got to start working on it. We can't just keep kicking the can down the road. As much as I want to save money as much as possible, we can't have our public at risk for issues. And this being redundancy, contingency, emergency storage, we need to be mindful of that. And the cost associated. We kick it a year later, we don't know what the economy is going to do. We almost could be probably 30% more than where we're currently at right now in the project as far as work, labor, and materials. So again, we got to start somewhere. So
The other consideration too is we could just put in the pumps, but you really don't get the benefit of those pumps if you don't have the storage behind it.
Yeah.
The main reason for the pumps, those pumps, they've worked well. They've been in operation for 11 years now. And you haven't had any maintenance issues, but we need these new pumps so that the other ones can be taken down, maintenance and all of that. So
we're
this
not
is
getting
always.
rid of the old pump.
No, it's not.
We can
But the
refurbish
bid
and then-
includes, that was another thing that was added originally whenever we scoped the project. It was just putting in 2 new pumps. But now it's been 11 years and staff recommended, well, let's have in this contract to put in 2 new pumps, but have the contractor pull the existing 2 pumps and go through them, check bearings. It's been 11 years. So, and it's utilized every day. That station runs every day for multiple hours. So that was their recommendation, to go ahead and pull down those 2 existing pumps once the new pumps are in and send them off for maintenance and testing, make sure everything's good, so that they can continue to work for the district into the future.
Okay. Thank you.
If there's no further questions, I'll take a stab at a motion.
Okay.
I make a motion that we approve CID 03, the ground storage tank, and award the contract to DN Tanks for a combined project cost of $2,614,980.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Ayes have it. Okay, thank you. Okay, item J. Matter of fact, before we go to item J, we'll take a 10-minute break real quick. Sorry, Gabe. Pause
sit
for the
down.
cause,
Go sit down.
and we'll reconvene at 10:05. All right, coming back into session, we are at item J, time is 10:05. GVCD development report from district engineering, capital improvements, construction projects, and proposed new developments. Mr. Gabe Cantu.
Morning, board. I would like to just kind of recap a little bit on Mr. Roberson's item G reference. And we're going to add with engineers overlapping, and that's a great point, like everybody agreed to. What we're going to do is add some verbiage in our application to require the developer to reveal who their developer engineer is going to be. So that way we ensure we don't have overlapping engineers. But thank you for bringing that up. So yeah, we just got a little bit of overview on the development and CIP stuff. In my little narrative there, I think the thing to take away is we're doing a water impact fee and acquisition fee assessment from that master plan being adopted last month. And so we're actively working on that. That's the big fish in the pond for us right now. We're having active discussions with, and so, we'll get those assessments done hopefully sooner than later. We are making progress on them. If you look at the table there, just on the totals, that's more of our gauge there. We got 41 projects in design, 47 in construction, with total of 88. We've been hovering on that 88 to 100 number for 2 years now. So that really hasn't been fluctuating much. Did y'all have any questions regarding at least this first page? No. The charts on the preceding pages are, just more of data reflecting that table. I think this is the second consecutive month I've provided these to y'all. On that last sheet, that last chart, I like to use as a gauge to know how much meters we're putting in the ground. It somewhat corresponds with the operations report we already went over, but not 100%, tit for tat, because this is more of the accounts that get set up. That the developers will set up the account for the meter to be put in the ground. Pam's report shows the meter actually put in the ground. And so there could always be a delta in there. So if you look at that March of 2024, we opened 89 accounts, okay, 4 meters to be installed. That doesn't mean all 89 meters got installed. It could have been, Pam's report could have showed a little bit less or more than that, because sometimes they'll open all 89 accounts, but not ready for the meter to be installed till 2 months later sometimes, because the builders are just causing a mess and we can't even put a meter in the ground because it's buried with, a ton of debris sometimes. And so there's always a delta there between the account getting set up by the developer and the meter being installed. Then the rest of the report has the maps from UEG and Tri-Hydro and their summary of work. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have regarding any of that.
Would you say that we're on plan for the year as far as meter installations?
Yes.
Yeah.
We are estimating, like we did the past 2 years, at around 1,000 meters. Last year we were at 800. I think we're gonna have more this year, more than 1,000 meters. We're starting off slow, but we're about to get a wave of projects just get finalized because of construction delays that, like for instance, in Cibolo Farms, Grace Valley area, there's a lift station that's hinging the opening of 3 units being finalized. And once that lift station gets completed, it's going to open up the finalization of 3 projects that are going to be about 400 units worth of EDUs. So those floodgates will just be kind of opened real fast when that lift station's done. And so development's on pace for 1,000 for sure. It may not look like it if you look at that first page where it says projects completed 2024 to date. We have 228.5 completed to date. So that's, 1/4 of the 1,000 we're estimating. But that's gonna rapidly open up through the summer.
And on the, you referenced the water acquisition fee review. I heard that $14.6 million number yesterday. So I saw staff, jotting that down, and I'd previously discussed that with Philip. But please add that into, our acquisition fee calculation so that when it comes time for the board to decide, we can know because that's how we pay for ARWA. That's how we pay for the CRWA, that we've got the money for the development to pay for the new water that we need. So please note that 14.6 for the
Yes.
next step of ARWA and include that in, probably add that to
In the
the work.
tabulations.
Yeah, y'all have already
Is it
started.
Newgen working on our next round? I think we agreed to a yearly review as to that information as far as rates and impact fees.
Thank you,
Correct.
John. I was
Okay.
just coming to that.
Yeah, so Philip, when do we have that being brought up? I know we have budget season coming up. Are we taking Newgen's information as well when it comes to rate review?
Right. I had a contact with Chris Eckert from NewGen earlier this week. I'll have to pull it up. I didn't have the date ready for me, but he gave me a date of when he can get the initial review to us, but it should be coming up in the next month.
Okay, so hopefully during the May meeting, we can get that kind of somewhat at least briefed to us. With that knowledge and information, we can roll into budget season and kind of knowing a little bit more and being
Correct.
prepared.
Very good. Thank you, John.
Yeah, no, you're good. Thank you.
One
As far as,
additional thing.
yeah,
Probably next month, for sure at the construction committee meeting coming up here in a few weeks. We're gonna want to roll out a development fee schedule
mhm,
to cover costs of all the costs incurred from staff doing development work. So obviously, we have a component to recover costs from our consultant engineers.
Mhm.
But we don't have a clear way in recovering costs for staff accountability. I mean, our staff doesn't have a sheet in front of them. They're recording every minute that they apply to every project because it's like, flipping hotcakes. You may be working on 10 different things in the course of a couple of hours. So we're not requiring staff to
To
record every
log.
minute. They're doing
per project.
every
and
little
everything,
particular
yeah.
thing throughout the day. So we're doing some flat fees, like for plan reviews, plat reviews, administrative costs for issuing out approval letters. There's all these costs, incidental costs that come along with doing development that we're gonna lump sum into this development fee schedule that I'm going to want
But a
request the board to
policy?
adopt into policy.
Okay, that's what I'm like, is it a policy thing or is it an internal staff thing that could have been done? But if
Yes.
it's policy operational wise, then we'll have to get that ready to go.
So I wanted to go over that in the construction committee meeting because we're gonna start implementing that
Okay.
to help out.
Can you tell me, all of our rates, all of our increases, all of our costs are overseen by the state with state approval. If we institute fees and costs that are different from our rate schedule, are we still required state oversight?
Well, we have very little state oversight, but we have certain statutory requirements with regard to adopting any new fee or rate. And so it does require publishing notice, and it also requires a waiting period of at least 30 days after publication of notice has been complete and before it can actually be implemented. I recall a few months ago, the board approved NewGen working on a new rate order, and that could frankly not come soon enough because the operating policy is very dated, and we need to have that in good shape and ready to and usable, frankly. So, so that incorporating this into what NewGen provides us when they provide us this rate order that you all contracted with them for, would be really helpful because we could just do the publication one time and incorporate, you know, the new rate as well as all these new fees at the same time in the publication, because it's expensive, frankly, to publish in the newspaper these days. And the legislature hasn't gotten around to allowing for more modern forms of notice. So we're kind of stuck in the, you know, late 20th century in that regard.
One other question, Gabe, if I might, because I've casually heard some of your internal discussions. Are y'all going to address the issue? Because I know y'all were debating this topic about if we receive impact fees for whatever reason and the developer stops work or abandons the project, are y'all going to address verbiage to say, because I've heard that some developers stop and they want refunds. I don't remember when, maybe it's a couple of meetings ago. Afterwards, I heard some of that. And if y'all are going to have to put something in writing to the effect that, no, once you pay an impact fee, it's there. You paid for it.
So on the impact fees, we're collecting those at meter set.
Okay.
So those are gonna be really a non-issue because
Okay.
once they're at meter set, there was no forfeiture there was no project stoppage. Obviously, it completed to get to that point. So
Right.
we're fine with that. Again, think the point they question is actually the acquisition fees that they pay up front.
Right.
And so that's a component of why I'm bringing up these development fees to cover costs incurred by the district. Because currently we're collecting the acquisition fees upfront to be considered a commitment, if you will, that they're going to, you know, that we're requiring them at plan approval or plan submittal right now. It's gone to multiple different times in the interval of the process, but we just adopted going to collecting those at plan submittal. And that's the grief we're experiencing right now is why are we having to pay all our acquisition fees right now at plan submittal? The plan submittal, the plan review process, if I had to put a number on it, and I'm getting close to being able to run some actual stats on it, but on a typical development unit, say it's 100 units, on a typical development unit, when they submit plans for it, I'm thinking it's probably a 9-month process. And that's just not purely on GVSUD. There's, they've got to run that same set of plans through all the different approving authorities for the electric, the gas, the right of way, et cetera. And so they fronted, you know, $20,000 in acquisition fees for that 100-unit development that they're not going to see the fruits of until 2 more years. You know, by the time the plans get reviewed, they go into construction, there's another 9 months to a year of going vertical, you know, and so that's what they're not liking is having to pay those fees so far up in the process where they're more satisfied with paying that fee, from what I understand, at plan approval or prior to construction, which is the way we had it. The reason, again, we adjusted to plan submittal was to be the it was like of the commitment that we're not wasting our resources on that, but those are water acquisitions. We're not using that to cover the costs of plan review, plat review. So it's almost like we're still not necessarily getting what we're interested in gaining on our losses of labor applied to the plan, plat, easement, and all the approvals in between.
So what I would say is take feedback, but also evaluate what y'all are, the time and effort and, you know, expenditure you're spending internally and keep an open mind. You know, if we need to adjust exactly when we do it forward or back, we'll find a happy medium, but you know, we can't be beholden to whatever developers want us to do exactly the way they want us to do it. We have to make sure the company operates. and we have the funding to pay for the water that's reserved for them because we have to reserve it 9 months, 2 years in advance for that unit. So, I don't know what the correct answer is. I don't have a silver bullet to just fix it, but keep in mind, hear the feedback from folks, but also make sure that we are doing what we need to do to be whole here and try to make everybody happy, which is impossible. But you know what I'm saying? Like find the happy medium. I understand it's a complex issue, but just continue to refine the process.
Absolutely. And the whole point is just to recover our costs expended on the development work.
Well, to your point, Nick, I agree with you. And it's like, when they come to us, they're asking us to do work. And we should be entitled to be compensated for that. And if you choose to stop, that's on you. Or you choose to suspend, that's on you.
But the calculation, I think what Gabe's getting to is a standardized format for the amount of hours, labor, time,
agree.
energy put into it so that it can be published, to Shan's point, formally, so that everybody knows no matter what, we are entitled for payment for the work being performed. You can't just back out and expect the full 100% refund if you paid up front at plan submittal. I think to your point on the timeline of you got to pay for it now, or at least have the funds for that expense, water acquisition wise now. If they were to pull out, that money sitting in our accounts for 9 months to a year before plan approval, I have some concerns about that, just because if we're not going to use it, like if they're not going to go through with it, it's been sitting in our leg. How is that morally right? So again, y'all talk about it with the construction committee. Y'all come up with a plan, package it up, propose it to us when y'all are ready, hopefully in May, so that when New Gen gets their stuff, we can all package up our publishing to the public accordingly and move forward on that. So,
And this is something that we've
Yeah.
heard several times. This is not a new concept of, I don't understand why you're working on a fee schedule. It makes sense. And once we get a fee schedule situated and we can debate exactly, how we want to find that middle ground and then establish that schedule. Once it's posted and then as it's been established for, more and more time, the conversations that y'all keep having with, having to have with the new developer that comes in and this area, we can say, hey, look, this has been how we've handled it for X number of years and it's worked. We've refined it, left, right. Now this is what we've settled on. And then it's the established way to do it. And there's no discussions that need to happen, or many fewer, I hope.
okay. Well, thank you, Gabe. Tri-Hydro, UEG, you have any comments on what y'all submitted? You're good? Awesome. Okay, we are going to item agenda K, discussion. Discuss implementing new electronic devices for the board of directors, replacing hard copies of board packets and take action necessary. So Cody and Philip have brought to our attention during our board agenda meeting was the expenses incurred when developing these packets and updating. If any new information comes aboard, they got to go print off things, making sure that we have it accordingly. If things change, using a device where they can send the information to us directly is, cutting back on costs. Overall, energy, time spent with the guys delivering these packets, the hours on the vehicles, just the accumulation of work and time to do that. We wanted to at least have a board discussion as to what y'all's thoughts are. And Mr. King, you want to kick it off?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, but I had a couple questions. So when and if we receive these electronic packets, are we able to go in there and modify? And like, I like to highlight and underline and
So
circle.
that was one of the options. One of the devices had a stylus where you can write on it. I like to write on my packet. I like to write on notes. The one thing that I want to be mindful of is that these devices would be Green Valley's property.
Right.
They're loaned to us to do work on Green Valley's, matters, instead of our personal devices. Our personal devices, if ever subpoenaed or, called into question, we would have to turn them over if we conducted Green Valley business on. So if we have our own device, it's strictly for Green Valley stuff. I hate having, I have 2 phones, I have laptops. I mean, I don't need any more devices personally, But again, I want to segregate business and work separate from Green Valley, and I don't want them intermixing on one device. That's my opinion
Right.
for
The other
security purposes.
worry I have is if we can go in there and modify it, can it be modified in a bad way?
It would be a controlled.
You understand what I'm saying?
revision. It would be a revision, like
Like,
let's say.
if I wanted to, if I didn't like an agenda item
Mhm.
and didn't want to vote for it, I could remove it
No, no,
from
no.
my,
So what you're getting is a PDF format of it.
okay.
You're not
Perfect,
getting a
perfect.
live document that could be
Perfect.
edited. Now, if memos were to come out either from board members saying, hey, my memo is done, I didn't make it into the packet in time, but here it is, I can, send it to Cody. Cody blasts it out to everybody,
Perfect.
and you can folder it accordingly.
I did a little bit of math just because I'm a numbers geek, but this would pay for itself in just under 14 months.
Yep. And then as board directors cycle out, they just hand it off accordingly.
And
So-
that figure isn't including special meetings that we have either. That would lower it from
Exactly.
13
That's
months
exactly right.
down even further. Just one special meeting knocks a month off, so.
But again, to Shan's point earlier, we need to modernize instead of being in the late 20th century on papers. As much as I appreciate the packets, I have banker box full of packets. I believe we all do. And it's getting a little ridiculous on where do I put it because I don't want to throw them away. So
There are
Plus, Cody,
recommendations.
Cody made a point also, we're probably the last people on earth that still use these binding machine things. And if our binding machine broke, we probably
God
couldn't even
forbid.
source parts to fix it anymore.
yeah.
Correct.
So
And I
Is
just
there an
wanna make
IT
one-
recommendation on option 1 or 2? You have a,
David, do you have any
An
comments
opinion?
on it?
Mike, David, can you get the mic on, please, Mike?
to make one comment.
I think Cody had
I
a
can
comment.
I can always print certain items as well. If there's specific board members that say, hey, Cody, can you at least print me the agenda? I can have it printed out and put on the table for you.
okay.
We just can't modify everybody's to.
Well, we could print it out ourselves at our own
Yeah.
expense too. But do you have an opinion on option 1 or 2?
Want to make sure that I don't have the copy in front of me. Which one was option? Which one?
Oh, well, that's a good question.
Option 1 was the laptop from HP and option 2 was the iPad Air.
My suggestion would be the option 2, only because software would be free since it's through the Apple App Store. And very simple. I use it often all the time with all the other iPads we have here at the company anyway.
Is your infrastructure in such a manner that you could remotely manage those laptops with an iPad?
I'm getting to there with our Apple Business account. It's just taking some time.
Yeah, because I know you can disable devices through that if need be,
And one last
especially if they're
question.
stolen.
One last question. And this is going to be a hard one to answer, but with technology changing all the time, how long do you think these would last before we have to replace them?
We actually still have iPads that are in use still almost up to 10 years.
Okay.
They would last a long time.
So longevity purposes, we're planning at least a 10-year use out of these as long as everybody takes care of them.
Correct.
So, okay.
They'll still view PDF. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
And then we kind of touched on it, but David, I assume you'd be the one managing this. You have the available time to tack on 7 more devices to manage. I mean, I have no concept of how much effort that is for you. And then is there any security measures, VPNs or anything? How do we, I guess I don't need details, but you've got this handled where you can protect these devices because they are now external to the building, but yet we're still connected to the system.
Correct. Yes, sir. So for a little bit of clarity, we already pay for the Microsoft 365 licenses anyway, which already has Microsoft's enhanced security involved. We would just have to also make sure to download the authentication app for 2-factor authentication, which is very simple. And at that point, it's almost just hands off.
Would these
Very
be
simple.
behind the firewall?
Technically, no,
Good.
but again, through Microsoft security, they would
Yeah.
stay inherently secure individually as a device.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you for that. Again, I would hope that these devices are used solely just for Green Valley purposes. That's the intent, so that we can start getting away from our personal devices, our phones and laptops that have other personal information if ever called into question.
Yeah, I agree with
Kinda segregate
these would be
the-
Green Valley business only.
Yeah.
We would need to comply with the policies, you know, our.
Electronic device
standing
policy.
Electronic device policy.
We would need to sign off on that as well. So as long as everybody's in agreement on that, do I have a motion?
Yeah, I don't have an opinion either way. They're both similarly priced. So I'll defer to somebody that knows more about.
I don't like Apple products, but I would prefer a tablet over a laptop personally. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll figure out an Apple product. My wife will laugh at me, so it's fine.
I hate Apple too, but it's whatever the board wants. I'm personally, I prefer to use paper, but if it's an extreme cost hardship and everything, because it's time, yeah.
I'd
But
like
it's
to-
hard to flip back and forth on pages on a tablet.
Before there's a motion, I'd also like to point out that it may be useful just for you guys to have, so you're not having to crane your neck backwards to look at presentations.
There is that.
Well, you've got good eyesight.
Awesome. Thank you.
Do we need a motion for this?
Yes.
All right, I'll make the motion that we approve option 2 in the packet to purchase 7 iPads with an approximate cost of $8,267.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll abstain. I just,
Bob's abstaining.
I won't oppose it, but I just
The only thing is. if you
understand both
abstain,
sides of,
abstination of a motion is due to usually financial involvement. If you have a conflict of interest of any kind.
oh, no, not that. I just abstain as I quite frankly don't care for either one, but I'm not going to vote opposed for the majority of the board.
Shane, you have an opinion on that? Sorry, Shan.
You can vote present. I wouldn't call it
Present.
abstain.
I'll vote present. All right, if that works.
Okay. All right, thank you. Motion passed. All right, moving to, what we're gonna do is we're gonna move item L into executive session. There are some legal concerns we just want to clean up on before we do anything on L. So we'll take that in a minute. Going to item M. Hear updates on items below for GVSU General Counsel. Take action if necessary. Shan, do we have any?
Apologize, Michael. Under pending or threatened litigation, there's one item that we've previously discussed that I just provide a short update. And then there's one new item that I believe the general manager has drawn your attention to, but just in case you all have any questions, we can bring that into executive.
Okay. All right. Well, appreciate that. So time now is 10:33. We're going to take items L, N, O, P, Q, R, S into executive session. And we'll reconvene when we get out. Thank you.
We're returning from executive session and entering open session. The time is now 1:07. We're going to move to agenda item Q. Consider comprehensive settlement agreement with City of Cibolo, including wastewater transportation and treatment agreements, interlocal cooperations agreement, and wastewater certificate of convenience and necessity transfer agreement, and take action as necessary. Do I have any motion?
I move to approve as stated.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, going to item T, consider possible action on items discussed in executive session. Okay, going back to item L. Do I have a motion for item L?
Yes, I'll make a motion, two-part motion. Firstly, a motion to direct staff to coordinate planting of a memorial tree and plaque in the name of Gary Rose. And second part of the motion, also to coordinate with staff to set together a panel to recognize former employees, friends of Green Valleys, et cetera, that in the future we would like to be recognized. Put together a panel with staff, maybe some members of the public, maybe a member of the board, so that we have a process for something like this moving forward.
A
Have a
second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. On item O, or sorry, N, do I have a motion for N when it comes to the GPS devices?
Oh, right. Oh,
And we're not doing cybersecurity. That was different. GPS, the items that we talked about,
That's the
Verizon,
Yeah.
option,
the Verizon.
the Verizon.
exceed 12,000.
Get the motion.
Bless me.
There you go. You're already saying it.
Which one was it? It was,
N.
N?
Yep.
Oh, okay, I guess we did do it under N. Okay, under item N, I make, the motion that we approve the Verizon, GPS tracking system not to exceed $12,000. The details will be handled by the, Facilities Committee, correct?
A second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And going into Jan on item R, we're gonna take no action and direct staff to present the feasibility study.
That's correct.
Okay, so that's on R. Updated on S. Okay, item agenda U, consideration of proposed items to be included on next month's board meeting agenda.
I have one.
Do we need to take action on item S?
No.
No action needed, Shan?
That's correct. No action needed. It was just an informational report.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Nick.
I'd like to have a discussion action item, for direction of the phasing of the Santa Clara treatment plant. So that the board, we kind of got it paused, but the board can give official, direction moving forward.
Thank you. Anybody else? Once, twice, sold. All right, going to agenda item V, motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right now is 1-1-1. So 1-11.
That's a wrap.
Thank you. See you next time.